Somewhere near you, there's a clematis nobody takes care of. Nobody waters it on schedule, nobody prunes it. The owner barely remembers it's there, and every summer it comes back bigger, thicker, louder. Meanwhile, you plant one with real care, check on it constantly, water it right on time, and by next spring, it's just gone. No storm, no obvious cause, no drama. It simply quit. Here's what almost nobody tells you at the garden center. This plant has a bad reputation it hasn't earned. And that gap between reputation and reality is about to change how you grow it for good. Before this video is over, you'll have 5 moves that decide whether your clematis dies in year 2 or is still swallowing your fence in year 20. One of them explains almost every case of a healthy, thriving clematis collapsing overnight. The exact moment most people give up on it, when they never actually needed to. None of this costs extra money. None of it needs special tools. It's 5 decisions made once at planting time and at pruning time, and nothing else. Here's why clematis gets such a bad rap. It produces more flowers per square foot of fence than almost anything else. You can climb up a trellis so people buy it constantly, and then watch it fade out over one hesitant season, exactly like the warnings predicted. What those warnings never explain is the mechanism. Clematis simply doesn't run on the same instructions as the rest of your garden. The advice that keeps a rose bush alive quietly works against clematis, step by step. So the split happens right at the start. Gardeners who treat this vine like everything else lose it, usually within 2 seasons. Gardeners who know its quirks end up with something that shrugs off drought, months of neglect, and even a brutal ground-level pruning. None of this is about a green thumb. It comes down to 5 decisions. Point 1, planting depth. Set it deeper in the ground than instinct tells you to. Most plants go into the soil at the exact depth they sat in their nursery pot. Clematis wants the opposite treatment entirely. Position it so the lowest pair of leaf joints on the main stem ends up roughly 2 fists width beneath the surface. It will feel like a mistake the whole time you're doing it. It isn't. Those covered joints carry the ability to push out completely new shoots on their own, straight out of the ground, or a slug shreds a stem, or your own shears slip while weeding. Nothing is actually lost. Fresh growth simply rises up from underground instead. Without realizing it, you've planted a spare copy of the vine directly beneath the original. And this one choice is the reason a properly buried clematis can survive being cut down to nothing, while a shallow one never gets a second attempt. Hold on to that idea of a buried backup. It's about to rescue this plant twice over. Point 2, sun and shade. Shaded feet, sunny crown. Everything above the soil line, the foliage, the stems, the flowers, wants direct light. 6 hours minimum, no negotiation. Everything below the soil line wants the opposite. Cool, shaded, consistently moist ground. Let that root zone sit exposed under direct sun, and the plant goes into survival mode, dropping leaves and buds just to cope. That's the real reason a clematis in a bare baking bed looks thin and tired, even with plenty of sunlight overhead. The fix takes about 5 minutes at planting time. Tuck a low, dense companion right against the base, a compact perennial, a spreading ground cover, a dwarf shrub, anything that keeps the soil covered. That cover locks moisture in and keeps the heat out. Do this once and the plant stops punishing you every time you skip a watering. Sun on the shoulders, shade at the feet. That's the entire rule. Point 3, pruning groups. Identify your pruning group before you touch a blade, or don't prune at all. Get this wrong and you lose a season of flowers without killing the plant, which is somehow worse, because you'll spend months blaming yourself for nothing. There are 3 groups, each running on different timing. Early bloomers flower on wood grown the year before, so pruning stays minimal. A light cleanup right after flowering, nothing more. The mid-season group flowers on both old wood and new growth, so a gentle trim in late winter, removing only dead or weak stems, earns 2 separate rounds of blooms in 1 year. Late bloomers flower purely on new growth, so you cut the entire vine down to about knee height every winter, and it comes roaring back regardless. Don't know your group? Do nothing for 1 season. Just watch when it flowers. That single piece of timing tells you everything. Left unpruned, a clematis gets a bit wild. but it survives. Cut at the wrong moment, it can lose an entire year's show in one afternoon. Point 4. Wilt. Now here's the point that actually accounts for the majority of early clematis deaths, and it has nothing to do with bad luck. Picture this: your vine is thriving, climbing steadily, days away from its first bloom. Then one morning, a single stem, sometimes the entire plant, has collapsed, blackened, limp, wilted overnight, with zero warning the day before. That's clematis wilt, a fungal infection that attacks the visible growth and makes the whole plant look completely dead. Almost everyone reacts the same way. They dig it up immediately and tell every gardener they know that clematis simply can't be grown. Here's what they missed entirely: this disease almost never reaches the root system underground. If you buried the plant deep back in point 1, there are living, protected buds sitting untouched right below the surface at this exact moment. So instead of pulling the whole thing out, the right move feels almost reckless. Cut every diseased section straight down to ground level. Carry the debris away and never compost it. Keep the soil steadily, evenly moist. Then simply wait. Within a few weeks, in most cases, fresh green shoots break through the soil surface, and the plant effectively restarts from its own foundation. Plenty of clematis vines go through this once or twice while young, then stop entirely once the roots mature and strengthen. The real lesson here has nothing to do with preventing this disease. It's about refusing to dig up a plant that was never truly dead. Point 5. Feeding. One last point ties everything above together. Nourish the roots on the plant's own rhythm, not a fixed calendar date. Clematis eats heavily, but hand it the wrong nutrient, and you'll pay for that mistake all season. Too much nitrogen builds a thick wall of leaves and almost no flowers, a plant that looks perfectly healthy while stubbornly refusing to bloom. What actually drives flower production is phosphorus and potassium. Early in spring, work compost or aged manure into the soil as a slow-release foundation. Once buds start forming, switch to a potassium-heavy feed, the kind typically sold for roses or tomatoes, and that's what pushes the plant into a full, generous bloom. A clematis with deep nutrient reserves and a strong root system forgives almost anything: a missed watering, a bout of wilt, a brutal winter, because it has energy in the bank to spend. So why isn't any of this common knowledge already? Partly because a plant tag on a rack has to serve 100 different species at once, not the one exception that breaks every rule. It's far cheaper to print one generic instruction than a separate one for a single plant. And when clematis inevitably fails under that generic advice, it's the plant that gets blamed, called difficult, called a diva, never the label sitting in the pot beside it. That's a convenient story for whoever's selling you a replacement next spring. It's a costly one for you. Once you actually know these 5 points, you're no longer gambling on a temperamental vine. You're running a system built to be nearly impossible to destroy, and almost nobody around you is bothered to learn it. That gap is precisely why one version of this plant swallows an entire fence for 30 years, while the other gets quietly replaced every spring. 5 decisions, 1 result. Bury it deep for a backup plan underground. Shade the roots so drought stops being a threat. Learn the pruning group before a single cut. Refuse to dig up a plant that only appears dead. Feed the roots on its own timeline, never yours. Do all 5, and you're no longer hoping this plant survives the season. You've made it very hard for it to fail at all. Go find your spot, sun above and shade below, and dig that hole deeper than feels right.